Welcome to Clear Vision Wednesday. This is my weekly show all about vision improvement. My name is Claudia Mühlenweg. I'm the creator of the Natural Clear Vision Method and the founder of the Natural Clear Vision Institute. And today we have a topic that I honestly don't know that much about. And I'm very, very interested in this because I hear this more and more from clients. So I have on Heather Gray, and we will talk about Lyme and mold and how that can affect your vision. And Heather is a certified functional diagnostic nutritionist and bioenergetic practitioner and has worked with Lyme and mold for over 30 years. So welcome to the show, Heather.
Woohoo! Thanks for having me.
Super happy to have you because this is something that I'm, like I told you, I don't even know that much about it. So tell us a little bit about how did you get into this business of Lyme and mold, and why is that something that you've been working with and helping people overcome?
Yeah, absolutely. So the short version, it always starts way back further than when you actually get it. So many people, right? They think I get bit by Lyme disease, so I got, I got bit by a tick, I got Lyme disease. And I try to tell people that it's usually something starting way, just like most autoimmune, Alzheimer's, right? All that stuff is taking place years before you actually ever get a symptom. And so mine was no different. I was basically born full of shit. Right. I was a constipated kid sitting on the potty at the age of 4 years old till my feet fell asleep. And at that time, nobody was trying to figure out what was wrong with me. They were just throwing band-aids at symptoms, laxatives, castor oil, all kinds of other nasty stuff. Hindsight's 2020. Haha. That was the same year my uncle committed suicide. That was also the year my grandmother died of breast cancer, and I was being raised by alcoholic addicts.
Oh my God.
So early childhood trauma started to set me up to be a good host, right? It also kicked on my celiac gene, and I was eating a standard American diet, or the SAD diet, like we like to call it. All right, so let's fast forward many, many, many years. So finally, I get bit by a tick when I'm 13, and I started showing symptoms 2 years later with my first suicide attempt, first of three total. So Lyme is a spiral-shaped bacteria. It's in the same family as syphilis. And so when people get syphilis, they usually go mad, right? Like that, it really affects a lot of the brain inflammation. So Lyme disease, they call it the great mimicker because it can systematically invade any tissue, any system, any organ, and start shutting things down. And so it looks like fibromyalgia, or it looks like chronic fatigue, or it looks like bipolar, or it looks like, you fill in the blank. And it loves to eat collagen. So when you have the bacteria in your body, that's why there's a lot of joint pain, joint stiffness. Another telltale sign, because it can show up differently in everybody, depending on what co-infections come with it and what your genetic predispositions are. And so, for me, I got a couple of the other co-infections along with it. But because I got it as a kid, it really likes to affect the gut and the brain. And so hence, a lot of my cognitive issues, a lot of mental health issues. I mean, every day on a scale of 1 to 10, I was living with like a pain level of 7, suicidal thoughts daily, 10, 15, 20, 30 times, pretty normal for people with Lyme disease. Sadly, suicide is one of the highest ways that a person with Lyme disease will die, because their brain is so inflamed. I also do stand-up comedy, and there's a piece in one of my stand-up bits that I talk about. We need to change the way we talk about people. We need to stop calling them crazy. Instead, we need to say, your brain inflammation is showing, right? Because once you slap somebody with that crazy stigma, it's really, really hard to wash off. And it's not necessarily the truth.
Wow, I had no idea. I mean, that's just a whole lot. I mean, I can not even imagine being on a pain level of 7 and not wanting, to leave this pain. I mean, that sounds excruciating. So I'm curious before we get obviously into like what to do about it. And what about vision? So our main, topic is always connecting it to vision. So what
Yes.
were like visual symptoms that you found in yourself? And did you get glasses, or what happened when those symptoms occurred? So tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Lyme, like I said, Lyme, it's a tricky little booger. It likes to hang out in the teeth as well. So a lot of people with Lyme disease have a lot of teeth issues, which these guys are directly correlated to different areas, different organs, different systems in the body and the eye. And so when yes, so I shortly after being bit by a tick, actually, it was when I started wearing glasses. So I had started wearing glasses around 14, 15. my whole life. I used to wear contacts because I was vain because people made fun of me when I was a kid for wearing glasses. So I got contacts as soon as I could. Um, and then as I got older, I ended up getting LASIK in my early 30s. I, wish I, now that I've met you, I wish I would never have done that, but they told me in your 40s, you're going to need readers. In your 40s, you're going to need readers. And I don't know, well, the name of my company, Renegade Health Boss, right? I'm such a renegade. I was like, no, I'm not going to go down that way. And so mold and Lyme both have a tendency to affect the optic nerve, especially with inflammation. So we were kind of talking about this a little bit beforehand. You can actually test this by taking, I think it's a $10 test online. It's called a VCS test. And you just Google VCS. But it's visual contrast. We found
Sensitivity.
sensitivity. Thank
Yeah.
you. Thank you. And it's the same test they use for fighter pilots, right? So if you're noticing any decline in that, it could be because of heavy metals, it could be other toxins, mold or Lyme. And for me, mold is really the one that causes the most issues with my vision. And so recently I've been following along with your stuff the last couple of years and I do the exercises and I can always tell when I've been infected by mold because all of a sudden my night vision is gone and I'm having to pick up readers again. And it's usually like, oh, it's a good indicator for me to figure out where I'm getting exposed. And then I start taking my binders and I start working on reversing that. But it's fascinating how much it affects my vision. And when I'm not having issues with that, I don't need readers. I'm now, so they told me when I was going to be in my 40s, I was going to need readers. I'm now 46, almost 47, and I still don't use. The only time I need readers is yeah, to read print on a bottle like that. That's the only time I bring them out. But for the most part, between doing your exercises, making sure that my detox level, my toxin load is down, and then I also take something called methylene blue eye drops and red light. And between those things, like I can't get over how well my eyesight has stabilized in my late 40s.
We will talk about some of these things. I've tried methylene blue, but only as a like on orally. I haven't put it as an eye drop. So I'm very interested in that too. So let's backtrack a little bit. I mean, you talked about some symptoms like blurry close-up vision. You talked about the visual contrast sensitivity test, which is basically the lower the visual contrast, then if the optic nerve is not healthy, at some point, if the contrast is like black and white is the highest contrast we have. So if you have a black and a white that's 1 to 21. And I know that from my former work as a designer. I was a graphic designer, art director. And since when I learned about vision, I was very interested in accessibility and making sure to design things like not like light gray and like tiny print, right? But I was really, accessibility is really important to me. So I know that. But basically, when we get into lower contrast, that's a telltale sign that you have some inflammation in your optic nerve or some other challenges. So I looked up a little bit on Lyme disease. I also, Trisha Kirby, who was on my team, freely shares about her own Lyme disease, and she said she was very light sensitive. Is that also something that you find with Lyme disease that your clients have? What other visual symptoms might they experience?
They definitely just decline and needing to either, if they're already wearing glasses, they have to up their prescription or floaties. Floaties are a
Okay,
very
yeah.
common symptom of people with Lyme disease. But like I said, it shows up differently in everybody because it kind of depends on where your weak links are to begin with in your genes. And then so Lyme disease never, ever, ever usually comes by itself, ever. It's usually Lyme and a couple different co-infections of different viruses, bacteria, parasites, heavy metals, mold. And so it's kind of whatever that concoction that person has got. They also call, ticks nature's dirty needles because it's feeding on so many different things. And then by the time it gets to you, you never know what kind of concoction you're getting injected with. So couple other misnomers real quick with Lyme is that you need to have the bullseye rash in order to have Lyme disease. And that's only 30% of people actually develop a bullseye rash. I was one that did not. That's why it took
So you didn't
20,
know, right?
no, 27 years I had it before I finally got diagnosed.
And how do you actually get diagnosed? And I'm from Northern Germany and I now live in Los Angeles and haven't been around many areas, but how do you know that you have Lyme, especially if you don't have that rash?
So Yeah, that's a good question. Lyme testing can be really, really tough because unfortunately, a lot of them are chronic, like myself, and a lot of them are testing for immune responses like a Western blot. And in cases like me, that was shut down. And so I didn't actually show up positive on a Western blot, which is what a traditional doctor is going to use to test you. So those are kind of crappy.
Uh-huh.
Personally, I like live blood analysis or dark field microscopy, or I Vibrant Labs, IGenics Labs, DNA Connections, uh, Galaxy Labs. So there's a couple more labs out there these days that are actually getting more and more and more accurate testing, and there's more research going into getting this to where it's not so hard to get an accurate diagnosis. Personally, I also like to use the cell cores intake forms because it really is amazing. It helped tease out, is it mold, is it Lyme, is it heavy metals, is it parasites? Because like I said, they usually all come together. And sadly, when you're in the Lyme world, right, if you're a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And
Yeah, yeah.
this really helps to tease out, oh no, actually you've got more of a mold issue, because that's going to completely change how we, work with somebody. So between the intake forms, typically that and the symptoms is kind of all I use. I don't waste my clients' money on lab testing because it can be so iffy and it's expensive. I think it's like $1,300-$1,400 to do a lab test to look for Lyme. And so, a lot of times if people know that they're outdoorsy, if they're horse people, if they're hikers, type of thing, and then they've got these symptoms, I mean, like I said, usually just the intake forms itself will give me a home run. Oh, that and Horowitz has also got an intake form that you can do online that's free that kind of gives you an idea of the
Horowitz, is
probability.
it just Horowitz like .com, or what is the like, well,
I'd have to again Google,
okay, good.
the symptom questionnaire Horowitz, and it will come up.
Okay, so Trisha is here in the chat on Zoom with us, and she had Lyme as well. And she said it took her 15 years to get diagnosed, and definitely wasting lots of money on that Western blot test. So, I mean, that alone is just like, and some of the health conditions are not even taken serious by Western med, slowly they're catching up. So, I love that. So
Oh
I,
no, the CDC just recognized my disease last year.
wow.
Last year.
That is absolutely crazy. So that I think is crazy that they only recognize. I think we can say that's crazy, because so
Yeah,
many,
that is truly crazy.
right? And it's like especially if we have there's so many things that you talked about that can be attributed to so many other conditions, right? So really finding out what the thing is. But I would think, um, so you talked about binders, right? And I did my first, urine test a few months ago for mold and for heavy metals. And I live very clean. I do all the things. I have a water filter, I eat only organic, all the things, right? I've been working on my gut. But I did have also quite a lot of high mold. And my practitioner that I'm working with said, well, are you drinking coffee? I said, yes. So I just switched to a new brand called Purity. I know other people, there's Danger Coffee, and there's a bunch of companies that have mold-free coffee, because I didn't even know this until a few years ago, that coffee is one of those things that has often mold, right? And, I'm sure the regular Starbucks cup, and I'm not saying Starbucks coffee has mold, I'm just saying,
It absolutely has got mold. It's very,
okay,
yeah, no.
well,
Toxins,
just saying,
toxins and mold, and it's in plastic. No, do not drink
right.
Starbucks.
Yeah. But my point is, I think a lot of us, and coffee has many benefits. I love coffee, but I think that's probably and obviously I've lived in rental apartments that had mold. And I have to say, Heather, unlike you, I'm not, like, I didn't notice, like I didn't do mold, like, and then I had my practitioner one of my health practitioners was so sick she couldn't work for 9 months for mold exposure. And I'm more like, maybe I feel a little low energy, or I get a headache, but I don't, like, I'm not that sensitive to it. So I sometimes probably didn't even know I was exposed to mold. Yes, when I moved one time and I moved my bed and there was black mold under my bed, I was like, okay, I slept on this for 3 years.
Oh,
But again, I'm not like, you know what I mean? Like
I have the genetics that doesn't detox mold. And a lot of us, they're the canaries in the coal mine. That's how three people can live in a house. One person can be deathly sick and the other two not even affected. So
right.
I had a moldy AC window unit actually blowing on me for the past 3 months. I actually just got my brain back about 2 weeks ago. I almost didn't go to Mindshare because a week before that, I wasn't even able to drive.
Wow. So I
So
mean, that must be
yeah,
challenging, right? To
it
have this,
horrible.
yeah. So, okay, so let's talk about some of the like, so we talked about Cellcore, which is the supplement. I'm taking a binder from Cellcore right now. I'm not affiliated with this brand, but you said they have some intake forms. So that might be an easy way to find out if you're like, yes, yes, yes. And it's like the old cosmopolitan test, right?
Yep.
If you only answered A, you very likely, have Lyme or something like that. So what else other than binders? Talk a little bit about your like how to address these challenges, and obviously get your like. And before we get to this, any other vision challenges that you have noticed? When I did a Google search, a lot of the infect like itis, right, the eye infections, but even double vision, balance problems, light sensitivity, came on. But like you said, everybody is different, so there's not like one thing that is very noticeable with your vision.
Yeah, absolutely. Except for the fact that it declines very quick.
Right.
Yeah, always declining. And yeah, my prescription got up pretty high by the time I figured out what it was. Is every year it just kept getting worse and worse. I think it was like to a point where it's like -7. I mean, it was crazy. And then, like I said, I went and got LASIK, and like I said, I'm very grateful that now I don't mess around with any of those things. And my eyes seem to be, really liking what I'm doing for them these days. It's probably just like you teach, making sure every 20 minutes, taking a break, looking 20 feet away, all the things that you teach. Plus, like I said, the methylene blue, the red
Right.
light. Um, but yeah.
So some eye doctors, one of our colleagues that was at the event that we were just where we just met recently again, says that she discovers Lyme in an eye exam. So I think, but I would say most eye doctors are probably not trained to recognize that, right? So you probably get you notice your vision is declining, there's blur, and then you just get stronger and stronger prescriptions, making your vision worse and worse. So finding an eye doctor that is understanding how to, when you look into your eye, that there's a chance to see Lyme disease. So I found that very
Absolutely. Like, I mean, if you're looking at a biological dentist, I don't know if they have biological eye doctors, but I would guess that there's got to be some functional,
yeah,
eye.
yeah. It's all
Yeah,
the
yeah.
eye doctors that have studied functional medicine, I think, that understand more about it. Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. Because it's not just a normal part of aging. It's not just a normal part of life. It's another one of those, it's a symptom. And no matter how common a symptom may be, it is never normal. It is always your body's check engine light going, hey, dummy, I've been trying to get your attention. You're not listening. So I'm gonna turn up the volume. And we have a tendency just to take a piece of tape and put it over that check engine light and then wonder why things are getting.
Right. I like I like that analogy. I always use that myself. So you have somebody that comes to you that have Lyme, mold, or both, or just one of those things. Like, how do you start this? So testing, let's say testing has been done, it's been confirmed. What is your approach to helping someone?
Well, I typically start off with actually a lot of mindset and nervous system resetting because that was the last little piece in mind. So, the good little functional practitioner that I am, I would do all the supplements and eat the diet and make sure I was in bed by a certain time and I'd get the right kind of exercise, and then I'd relapse. And then I'd clean everything up again and then I'd relapse. And I found out the hard way, and a lot of people are talking about the trauma, right? And trauma and how it stays in the nervous system. We started off with my story of, what kind of,
Mhm.
adverse, the ACE scores, right? The adverse childhood experiences, which was the test that directly showed, early childhood adverse events, and how it sets you up for autoimmune and other inflammatory conditions as an adult. So getting that trauma out of the nervous system, getting the nervous system calmed down is absolutely like key. I mean, because no matter how good your diet is, no matter how good anything else is, if you're still stuck in fight or flight and there's always a tiger chasing you, you can't heal. You won't digest your food. Nothing works properly. So I really start off with folks with mindset stuff first. And then we kind of go into the detox and cleaning up lifestyle and that sort of thing. And then if needed, we'll dive deeper into, using herbs and other things to kind of help with Lyme and other bacteria and parasites. But a lot of times when we just clean somebody up to begin with, it's amazing. We don't even have to do that other last step because their own system, their own immune system kicks on and goes, oh, thank God, I know what to do now, and it's amazing how many people then no longer have to, and sometimes people still do have to treat. And if they want to do the antibiotics route, if they want to go see a doctor, that's great too. Getting all this stuff cleaned up beforehand is going to set you up for success no matter which direction you decide to go. But I'm always screaming at the top of my lungs, don't focus on treatment when it comes to Lyme. People are so brainwashed. I have a disease, I need a doctor. And
Mm.
there's usually something in place that made you more susceptible to that disease. And that's where you need to be focusing.
I love that because Heather, guess this is so similar what I teach because everybody's like, oh, is it eye exercises? And I always say it's not eye exercise. Yes, some of the things you could call more exercises, but it's really, we always start with nervous system regulation, calming down. I use myofascial therapy balls to get people to release tension in the body. We work on the mindset. So I feel like it's very similar. We have to start with those foundations because only when you're relaxed are you even capable of performing an exercise or performing kind of some kind of training. And it sounds like it's very similar with Lyme when you are mold, when you set yourself up to like be in that state where you can heal, things can fall into place. So that sounds like 100%. So tell us a little bit about the methylene blue. I'm
Oh
curious.
man, that's been so much fun. Methylene blue is one of the oldest dyes that's been around. It is a dye. It's a man-made, um, like in the late 1800s, and they were using it to dye blue jeans and, just regular, like we would use to use dyes. They were using it to stain things to see the difference between the cells, and they were trying to look for a cure for malaria at the time. And they were noticing that this dye was killing malaria. And so since then, they call it the silver bullet, the magic bullet, like because it's phenomenal at helping support mitochondria. It's phenomenal at helping support antioxidants, detox. But this one brand in particular makes an eye drop mixed with gold and something else. I can't remember what it is, but it's just one drop in your eyes, and then you use a little red light. Be careful with the red light. I make sure to put mine on the low setting, or if it's a higher setting, make sure to put your eye, your hand in between it. You want a little buffer because you can hurt your eyes with red light. But red light supercharges it. And it's amazing, especially those of us that have been on computers all day. Our eyes get tired, they get heavy. But I was feeling another decline because, like I said, I was having issues with mold. But as I was working on the mold, I also started doing this other stuff with the methylene blue and the red light. And I can't get over
So
how
you
it.
put that, so I've only done it where you put the little lozenge thingy on the tongue and everybody had a huge blue tongue and mouth. So when you put those, so first of all, it things like super scary, right? We think like dyes, right? That's a,
Right. Well, I followed this doctor for forever thinking, "Oh my God, what is he doing?" And then I started learning more, started learning more. Then I had to little drink the Kool-Aid. His product, you actually the one that you take orally, you swallow, so you don't have to have a blue mouth, thank
all
God.
right,
I
right.
couldn't stand that.
Yeah, me
It
neither.
will,
I'm like, I look like, what do you call
no.
those?
Smurfs.
Smurfs.
It's horrible. Like you ate a Smurf.
Yeah.
Um, your pee will always be blue though, like bright, bright blue. So just get used to that. But
What will be blue? Sorry, what will be blue?
your pee, your
Oh,
urine.
your pee.
Yeah,
So when
yeah.
you put it in the eyes, what does this,
It
no?
doesn't, no. If the one drop and then you keep your eyes open, it'll actually disperse across your eye pretty decently. But if you get it tear, that might be a little blue. But if you just get it in and
Wow.
let it disperse, it's fine. And no,
And
it
then
does.
you combine it with the red light.
And then
Is
you
that
combine it with a red
important?
light.
You have
Yeah.
to combine it. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Even when you take methylene blue orally, it's suggested that you get into either natural light or red light within 10 minutes of taking it because it supercharges it. I remember the first time I took it internally and then I put my red light pad on my belly. It was like I could feel all the energy centers in my body just start charging up. It was amazing. The energy that I get, it helps with brain fog. It's anti aging processes. Like there's some really it's used quite often in the Lyme world because it's really great for some of the co-infections for Lyme. And it's been really good against the other little virus that's been causing so many problems since the pandemic. It's showing a
Wow,
lot
I need
of,
to try this now. I'm curious. I think I still have some samples, but I do want to highlight what you just said that because I get this question on every coaching call now. What kind of red lamp should I buy? What infrared lamp? And I always remind people that the natural light has all these light rays. I mean, if we can get a lamp, and I use it in the winter mostly when it's like when we don't have that
right.
light hours, and it just feels nice. It's really good to rejuvenate mitochondria and the retinal cells. It's like, but in the summer, if you know, and it doesn't have to be sunny, we get it in natural light. So I feel like that's really important what you said. We don't need to buy all these devices. They can be helpful, like you said, right, in addition, but we don't need to do that. So I'm looking on YouTube right now. I just had other people say that, you know, it took them forever to get diagnosed. Anything else that you feel like is really, before we ask you how people can find you, but anything else that you feel is very important for anyone to know about, you know, what they can do when they have mold? And I think mold is way more common, probably. I think I would guess at this point, what we talked about with coffee and everything, that probably everybody has some kind of mold in their system.
Oh, if you eat grains, absolutely,
Oh
you've
yeah,
got
tell
mold
us
in your
other things.
system.
Yeah, other things.
Peanuts, grains, corn, and coffee are some of the highest moldy foods. But there's even statistics out there that say that up to 50% of buildings have been water damaged. So wrap your brain around that. Again, unless you've got, so like I said, my detox genes, I don't detox it normally. And in healthy people, you get exposed with mold, your immune system goes in and tags it to be taken out of your body. It doesn't take out of my body. So even if I'm out of mold 5 years ago, it's still being recirculated in my system
Mhm.
until I take a binder or until I sweat it out with my sauna or, other ways of detoxing, or I poop it out, with a coffee enema, so yeah, it can be really devastating to those with the genetics like I do. Other people, it can cause issues, but like a low burn, so something that might happen later on in life. Mold really isn't great for anybody to be exposed to, but there are definitely some of us that have a higher tolerance to it than others, that's for sure.
So I wanted to say, so coffee, corn, grains, like just like wheat, rye, all those grains.
Yeah.
What else is high in? And peanuts? What
Peanut.
else?
Those are the biggest ones.
Okay, and you know, this is like literally the American diet is
Oh,
peanuts,
absolutely.
corn, coffee, and grains. I'm like, okay, so and then buildings, 50%. I mean, the crazy thing is we were just in Scottsdale at this conference together, and it was so hot. But then you think in this dry, hot, you know, landscape, there wouldn't be any more, but then the air condition that, you know,
Oh, that
that are
room
running,
is
right?
what kicked my butt last year. I gained 20 pounds that I haven't been able to get off from that event because of the moldy hotel room I was staying in. No, Arizona can be some of the worst because of that AC units. They're running all the time. I thought the same thing too. I'm like, desert, cool. I don't have to worry about mold. Nope.
There was another Heather that I talked to at the event, and she said she actually had to request another room. She
Yep.
immediately felt like she had that high sensitivity like you do. So for those of us that don't, I guess the good news is that we are able to better detox out of the mold, but at the same time, we might also, like me, I did this test and I did have quite high mold and I didn't feel anything. So I think it's a good idea to kind of get this tested so that you know what to do. So you talked about binders, methylene blue, the red light. And you mentioned sauna. So tell us just a little bit more to close this off. Like, so sweating, right? The good old sweat it out.
I will never, ever, 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 ever live without my sauna again. When I first got one, I started off with a sauna blanket because that's all I could afford back in 2020. And my life completely changed within a few weeks of using that regularly. I never could sweat. And that's actually a common symptom of mold toxicity is not
Ah.
being able to sweat. So I would just overheat and get sick. Oh, I would get so sick. But it used to be a bragging point. I'm like, I don't sweat. No, no, that's not a brag. That's not a flex. That's your body not working properly. We are meant to sweat. So I actually made a small video teaching people because so many people just jump right in, like myself, and they make themselves sick, like I did. So I put together the ins and outs of like how to do a sauna correctly. So that way because if I had a dime for every time someone was like, I tried that and it didn't work. Well, did you do this? No. Did you do this? No. Did you do this? Well, that's why it didn't work. So there's an art to it, but once you get it down, like I still 3 to 4 times a week. Also, again, it's a natural, you talk about longevity, anti-aging, boost your immune system, boost your metabolic, everything. Like I absolutely love my sauna.
And I think nowadays, we have the infrared saunas, we have the
Yep.
ones with incandescent bulbs, we have the ones with the other ones. So do you have one of those things that looks like where you zip it up and you're like sitting in this like infrared sauna thingy?
Yep. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that makes it much more doable, right? You can have that in your house. My parents actually, my dad died a long time ago, but our house in Germany had a Finnish sauna. So ever
Nice.
since I was a kid, we went to the sauna at least once a week, and we had outside we would either jump in the snow in the winter or had a cold plunge. So my parents were really looking, but then I got sick one time. I went in there with a full belly, threw up, and
Oh,
after that I was like for years I was like so scared to go into the sauna. So sauna, how often do you recommend to do the sauna?
at least 3 times a week,
Okay.
especially if you've got any kind of chronic illness, inflammation, weight to be lost. But they say, I mean, 3 to 5 days a week is phenomenal, but at least three to
Now I
really
want to
see the
get one.
benefits.
I want to
Yeah.
get one. But and it's also the other thing that's super hot now is cold plunging. But do you recommend for Lyme and mold, because it sounds like that's more stressful? Do you recommend sauna and cold plunging or just sauna or?
There's a lot of back and forth information with the cold plunge. Dr. Amy Apigian talks about when your brain is inflamed, that cold is the last thing that you want to do. I actually agree with that. There's a
Yeah.
lot of people there that say no, that helps because it's a good stress on the body, but when your body is already stressed out, I prefer not to add other stressors onto it until you're a little further down the line. I have done it. I hate it. I can't stand it. It hurts so bad. I'm not a fan. And so when you're already not feeling well and you have all these other tools to do, and most of them I look forward to doing, I'm going to just stick with that and not torture myself, right? Like my life has already been kind of torturous. Like I'm not trying to add insult to injury. And I understand the benefits to it. So if that's something that's up your alley, then go do it. But in the beginnings, especially if you have a lot of brain inflammation, I wouldn't suggest that because that adds a lot more stress than I think what our bodies can handle.
Thank you so much. I mean, I do want to say to that, I was spent like 6 weeks in Mexico and I was very stressful. Everybody's like beach house in Mexico. I was very stressful for many other reasons. There was a cold plunge and I naturally didn't want to go in there, even though it was super hot, right? I was like dripping sweat and I didn't feel right. So I think I 100% agree with you, and everybody has to make their own choices. But when we are already stressed and feeling like unregulated, like the sauna, you can also, it feels like it slowly gets warmer and you get used to that, and you can always decide to leave earlier. And you have this beautiful guide that you said you made. So transitioning into how can people find you, how can people work with you, tell us a few things, how to connect with you.
Yeah, absolutely. I Renegade Health Boss everywhere, and my website, especially renegadehealthboss.com. I've got a Foundations of Health course, right? And I'm giving your people, I think it's like $200 off. It makes the course
Oh,
$67.
wow, tell us a little bit about this course.
Yeah, so you use the word vision and you will get the $200 discount, but it's got that course, that little video I made about how to use a sauna properly. But it's the foundations of health, because like I said, so many people are chasing treatment, 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 and they're skipping, how are you sleeping? What's your stress level like? That nervous system resetting stuff that I talked about. We go into diet, we go into exercise. I have a 7 series cooking series, right? Real cooking for real life, because people get so like lost. What I tell them, you need to eat real food. I have a whole bonus videos on toxins and how to detox. And so just basically all the nuts and bolts that I did, in a really easy to follow course for $67.
Oh, wow. So I see it. It's actually the code is clear that you gave us, and it's
Oh, was
100
it clear? Okay.
clear, and that code is
Thank
$100
you.
off. So I put the link into the YouTube. So, and then also your website, obviously, Renegade Health Boss.
Hmm.
So I love that, absolutely. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you. I don't see any other questions on YouTube. I think I learned a lot today, and I hopefully everybody else did. Now my Clear Vision Club community, like every Wednesday, has a little bit of extra private time with you. So goodbye, YouTube, and see you next week. So let's